What's going on, guys? Welcome to Members Room. My name is Alex. In today's episode, we have CEO of Vitt Factor, Caden Vittorini, who's also a best-selling author of Becoming the 1%. And on today's episode, we discuss how he goes to assemblies and helps kids with one-on-one coaching improve their mindset and their life. You guys are going to enjoy this episode. Stay tuned. Caden Vittorini, Vitt Factor, CEO. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, Alex.
Of course, you were, and now are a very successful entrepreneur. But you started at 19 years old.
I did.
Not a lot of people do. Not a lot of people, graduate high school like, I want to start a business.
Yep.
Usually think about college, going into finance, whatever. What made you want to start Vitt Factor at such a young age, and how was the transition from high school to going right into a business?
Yeah, so I'm going to take it back to when I was 2 years old, and it's my grandma, who I call Tia, actually told me that I had the it factor since I was that young. So imagine having someone since you're 2-3 years old telling you that you had the it factor. So that's where the name Vitt Factor came from, Vittorini being my last name, and my grandma Tia telling me that I had the it factor. Vitt Factor. And where I really started Vitt Factor was I was helping out with another coaching brand, and what happened was a lot of the parents were going to her and saying, you're awesome, but who is Caden? My son or daughter are interested in working with him. And when I was doing like the leadership and just volunteer hours, just giving back a little bit, just to help assist the smaller workshops and the coaching, I realized that I had that gift of connecting with kids and hearing parents and those clients come to me personally, and the girl I was working with, and saying that I want to work with you. I was like, wow, like this could be something. This could be something where I can start my own thing. And I realized being 19, I'm close to their age.
Was this your first coach at 19? Your first one-on-one?
Yeah, so I was helping assist another person through one-on-one. So I was just adding in a little bit, being more of like a leader, volunteer experience, just giving back. And I didn't think anything of it until I realized how many parents were coming to the both of us and saying, my son wants to work with you. Like, we're willing to pay you. And I was like, whoa. And because of my age, I always say, Alex, I am young, relatable, and relevant. And I really do understand what they're going through being in high school 4 years ago and being in middle school like 7-8 years ago.
And you were just assisting another coach.
Yeah.
And the parents were coming to you directly.
Starting with her and then coming to me after.
Okay,
yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Nice. And when did you end up starting your own company from this?
Yeah, a few months after. I was like, okay, this is my passion. It really makes me feel good when I go and helps a kid going through the communication side of things, the confidence, the lack of motivation, whatever we're focusing on, helping that 8th grader, helping that 6th grader, helping that senior in high school, and whatever they're facing in that moment brought joy to me. And I realized I could make something big out of it.
Now, were you in college at this point?
I was. Yes, so I was at college at this point. So I didn't start my business Vitt Factor until the freshman year summer going into sophomore year.
And did you try to do both at the same time?
Or I did.
Yeah,
so what happened was I went to college to play lacrosse. So I played lacrosse throughout middle school and high school, and I was pretty good. So I got, an opportunity to go play at Western Michigan University out there in Kalamazoo. Went to college, played my freshman year, but when I launched Vitt Factor the summer going into sophomore year, it was growing pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, I enjoy lacrosse, but I think I want to focus more on my future. So I stopped playing the sport. It was a great sport, of course, but then I went all in on the business. So from there, I was able to build up a business while being a college student, and graduated just this past April.
Wow.
Yep.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
And did you have any pushback from parents, colleagues, little hesitation about starting the business?
Not really. My parents have always been very supportive since a young age, and I didn't really have many pushback. I had some people, yes, that were at my school, even from middle school and high school, that were like, Caden, what is Vitt Factor? Why are you starting your own business? Just be a college student, look for a job, get an internship, do that. Why are you going down this path? So that's where I had that pushback, or, friends and people that I thought were in my corner. But I realized, once I started going down a different route and taking that risk, as you know, Alex, I realized who people's true colors were. And that's where I was like, okay, I want to be different. I want to go down a different route. And that's where I'm at today and where I'm heading.
For sure. And how do you combat people saying you're too young, you don't know what you're talking about? What makes you being able to coach kids who are younger?
Yeah.
Because you're 22 years old. You started when you were 19. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are like, you have no experience, right?
Yes.
How do you combat that?
Exactly. The biggest thing, it started off with just one-on-one coaching, and then it branched into many other components. And what happened was, when I was working or talking to parents or people were coming to me and I was sharing the Vitt Factor mission and what I'm after, the biggest thing is, what do you know? You're 19. You're not even 20 years old yet, Caden. You don't have the life experience. But where I come in is saying, yes, I don't maybe have the life experience, but I know what it's like to be a student. I was in high school at that time was a year ago. I was in middle school 5 years ago. I understand what your student or your son or daughter are facing, whether I'm talking to a school or a parent. And I believe what our youth is currently facing today through the lack of communication skills, the lack of drive, motivation, self-belief, there is that big gap there. And that started from Alex, the pandemic, COVID-19, social isolation through technology and social media. So that's where myself comes in to teach them these skills that are so valuable that they can apply to each area of their life.
For sure. And we'll get a lot more into that later in the show.
Yeah.
But who were a lot of your mentors growing up that you kind of like to emulate through your business?
Of course. So I would say the first one that comes to my mind is my mom. She has always been very supportive, very successful through what she's done through sales. And she was just that person that always had my back and told me things that, maybe I didn't always want to hear. And for an example, Alex, my first semester of college, being away on my own, and I would say about 2 months in, is where I hit rock bottom. And I was, rushing a fraternity, making poor decisions, drinking often, staying up late, sleeping in. I was failing classes, had no control over my life. My priorities were everywhere. That's how I was, just three and a half years ago. So where that first true mentorship came in is when I came home for Thanksgiving and I saw my mom for the first time. And I'll never forget, she grabbed me and she pulled me in front of her. She said, Caden, you may not like what I have to say, but it's the truth. And I was like, did she figure out that I was failing all these classes, that I was sometimes skipping lacrosse practice, that I was drinking and partying and doing all those different things over having the right priorities? She said, you don't look at it at all. I could tell you're heading down the wrong path. I'm not sure what has happened the last 2 months, but you're different. So what happened was, later that night, I went upstairs and had that truthful conversation with myself. And for the first time, I saw what she saw. So she was that person that told me the hard truth, even though deep down I didn't want to hear it. So that's where I feel like now I come in working with, now in the past 2.5 years, close to 35,000 students, I give them the hard truth sometimes and saying, hey, you're making poor decisions. You don't have your priorities straight. You're not doing anything to move yourself forward. And I'm now that mentor towards them as my mom was for me.
For sure. I would say that period in your life probably gives you the ability to speak to these kids.
Yes.
Because you did hit a rock bottom. You came back from the rock bottom.
Yep.
And you're a much better person now.
Exactly.
That's your experience right there.
And
Yeah.
what I teach now too, through the one-on-one coaching, the group workshop, school assemblies, is what I had to focus on. I had to focus on time management, not procrastinating. I had to get my self-motivation in check. I had to expand my communication skills and all these different areas I had to work on myself to start heading down the right path, to become the best version of myself. And now seeing these kids and what they're facing, that's where I come in and say, hey, I've been there. And this is what I did to pull myself out of this. And no matter what you're gone through, no matter what you're facing right now or might go through your future, this is how you can, or this is what you could apply to make sure you set yourself up for future success.
Yeah. I think the two biggest transition periods for kids is going to college, like from high school to college. And then from college, I think the even bigger is college to the real world.
Yes.
A lot of people struggle that first year transitioning from no responsibilities, going to class, but not really, working too hard to actually having a job where you got to work really hard.
Right.
People, do you speak to college students now, or are you kind of getting more toward that as well?
Yeah.
I know you do primarily middle school, high school. Do you also try to speak to college about the transition?
Yeah.
Because you're starting to do that right now.
Of course. So I started off with just the one-on-one coaching, workshops, and assemblies for ages 8 to 18. Well, about a year in, Alex, I was like, okay, I'm working with up to 18. What about ages like 18, 19 to 25? So when you're graduating high school and you're in college or just wrapping up college, what about that group? So that's where I created our 1% team. So that team is now up to 60 members of young students, professionals, and entrepreneurs between that age range. And what we do is we have an opportunity on Monday nights to learn from high-level guest speakers, so CEOs, VPs, top international speakers, investors, for them to come share their mindset and content. And then we do team breakout and networking calls. We'll do team dinners, attend events together, because I realized at that time when you're graduating high school, going into college, the workforce, trades, wherever you're heading, or even, once you're done with college, you have to have people in your corner that want to see you win. And there's nothing better to have people around your age, where maybe they're your age, a couple years younger, a couple years older, where you feel like you're a part of a community, a family. And that's why I created the 1% team, is for students who are finishing up high school, college, or just wrapping up college.
For sure. Yeah, that's great. And what were some of the biggest challenges that you face as a company? Because you're a business owner at 19 years old.
Yeah.
You don't really know much about business yet, right? What were some of the biggest challenges you faced your first year or two transitioning into building your business?
Yeah, so the first year, there really wasn't much happening yet. It was just, how can I get the name out there? How can I build the brand? How can I, get that credibility? So I believe a lot of credibility starts by going after opportunities, how to create, recognize, and capitalize on opportunities. And that's why I really tried my hardest to get a TED Talk, to become an author, to get as much experience as possible so I can build that credibility. So when I go to schools, when I have opportunities to speak on stage, or am I speaking with parents that bring their son or daughter on as a client, it's, who are you? What do you do? What have you done? And so that first year, I was really trying to focus on just building my name up, building that personal brand. And that was a big challenge. And another thing I would say is, a lot of business owners, you're going to have a lot of failures. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to face challenges, have to overcome obstacles, but you don't win to lose, you don't win or lose, you win or learn. And that's the biggest thing I think you have to focus on as an entrepreneur, is when something doesn't go your way. And I tell, kids that I work with as well, this is, instead of letting that bring you down, your confidence, your motivation, you just feel like you want to give up on yourself, take a step back, reflect on what didn't go well. Working with the youth, okay, you're gonna fail a test. Your homework is not gonna go well sometimes, no matter what you do. But reflect and say, okay, well, I have been messing around in class. I don't really study at all. I don't advocate for myself and ask questions when I'm confused. I don't do what's needed to happen. Okay, well, why do you think you're not doing well in the tests? Well, that's why. You figured it out. Instead of pointing the finger and blaming, I'm not where I want to be because of him or her, or my teacher didn't teach this, or she's a bad teacher, right? Take that responsibility. So, from an entrepreneur that's just starting out, or maybe you've built up for the last, 5, 10, 15 years, those failures and mistakes, at no matter what level you're at, are going to happen, but it's how you respond to it is what matters most.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for someone to do, especially even adults, now that I'm older and I see now, is claiming responsibility.
Yes.
And self-auditing themselves and saying, you know what? I was wrong.
Exactly.
People hate saying I was wrong.
And it's so easy to blame. It really is.
It's so easy to blame other people. But once, at least for myself, once I start taking self-accountability for literally everything in life, even if it wasn't my fault, I still take accountability. I was in the wrong place. I shouldn't have been there at that time.
Yep.
Life became so much easier. I don't know, like that feeling in high school, college, where it's like you're blaming other people and you feel like life's not in your control.
Yeah.
Once you start blaming yourself for everything and you feel like life's in your control, it's like a weight's lifted off your shoulder.
Yes.
You feel so much better.
And especially if you know how to respond to you saying, okay, I'm going to take responsibility of this. Like, this is completely on me. And it's what you do from there is what matters, right? So it's like you can blame other people, but that isn't going to get you anywhere, right? If it just holds you back or even brings you down. So that's a great trait that you have, Alex.
Yeah. And even if it's not your fault, even trying to figure out a way you could have done it better,
done something differently, said it differently.
Even if
exactly.
It wasn't directly
what
your
part
fault.
did I play in that? Yeah.
Exactly. So you have your one-on-one clients.
Yep.
How do you branch out into assemblies, and how do you make your presentations for these assemblies, and how do you gather all this information that you've built up?
Yeah, so it started off with, of course, the one-on-one clients, and I didn't do my first school assembly till 10 months into the business. So just over 2 years ago is when I did my first assembly, and now in the past 2 years, we've done about 50 different schools. So when it came to the point, okay, I'm building up my one-on-one clients, but how can I make even a greater impact? And I was like, the schools. Getting in to speak at elementary, middle, and high school. And so I actually went back to my middle school and said, hey, his shout out Mr. Hundo. I said, hey, he remembers me being a past student. how can I have an opportunity to come speak to your school? So he gave me that opportunity. He trusted me. And seeing now that I can go from impacting one student at a time to now speaking in front of up to 1,000, let's say, or even 2,000, which we've done at a high school, it's such a good feeling. And the energy in there is just absolutely amazing. So what happens, Alex, is we have 3 different presentations, 4 assemblies, and then we have 4 different workshops. And our focus now is to build partnerships with these schools that we go into is, hey, your students clearly loved us, but let's come in and do a workshop with leaders, students who are really excelling. Let's do a workshop for students who are maybe struggling, or maybe are troublemakers, or maybe aren't having their priorities in the right place. And from there, that's where I created the Mission Academy program as well, where we're doing assemblies and workshops, but now your students can have access to us 24/7. And this here is the platform. So we brought on 5 different schools on board so far. In the past, we launched this early August. So it's been about 2 months now. We have 5 schools on board. That's, I think, close to 2,000 students. So it's been really great success. And that's where I feel like we're able to make a lasting impact is not just going in once. Let's come in, every month or every couple months.
Awesome. Yeah. And you went to your middle school, which is great because you already had the warm connection there.
Exactly. Yep.
How did you then in turn snowball effect that into getting another school?
Yeah. So I'd say the biggest thing is just you got to do well, of course. But from there,
you got to have a good product always.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right. You got to
one.
have a good product. That's start well or how you start. The second thing is just the word of mouth is so valuable. So when I go to a school, I say, okay, I was at so and so school with Mr. the principal. I would love the opportunity to come to your school. Or even better, I'll have the school that I went to do a warm introduction towards the other middle schools, the other high school or elementary. And from there, now I'm getting in the district with 20 schools, and that could be 20 leads like that. And so the biggest thing is just building partnerships through schools. So I was through the Plainfield district, and I've done, I think, 5 schools out of like the 18 or 19 that they have through there. So it's now just continuing to get in these schools, not just once, but multiple times. Well, now let's not just go to your school. Let's go to the other 20 schools within our district.
For sure.
Yeah.
And if you only had the chance at every school you go to give them one message, what would that one? You can't say anything else, just one message.
Yeah.
To resonate with the kids, what would you do?
Yeah,
I
would say 1% better, because I realized that if you ask yourself, how can I become 1% better today? When you wake up, ask yourself how I can become better than you were yesterday. That's what's going to move you forward. Like I've realized, with social media, and we want instant gratification through these goals and things that we're after, Alex. We want things to happen now, but things take time. Success takes time. And I know that myself being, a business owner, you got to show up every single day, no matter how you're feeling, what's going on. Maybe you had the worst day prior, we'll show up even stronger the next day. So if I can go to every school and talk about one thing, it'd be becoming 1% better every single day and realizing to get the A's that you're looking for, to build and maintain these friendships, to excel in sports, to maybe if you're wanting to build a side hustle, become 1% better, become better than you were yesterday.
The message you share to these kids is amazing. What are some of the best, what are some of the emotional experiences that some of these kids have had that have really changed you?
Yeah.
If there's any stories of individuals that you're like, you really changed someone's life.
Yeah. So I'll do an overview and then, a specific story. So the overview is I have something that I do at the end of the first assembly that we do. It's called knowing your value. So I have a fake dollar bill, and, in front of all the kids, I'll have it in front. I'll say, okay, how much is this worth? And they'll say $1. I'll crumble it up, and they'll say $1, and I'll step on it and I'll rip it apart. And after each of those, I'll say, how much is it worth? And I say, okay, you have to know your value, because in life, people are going to try to crumble you up, step on you, and rip you apart by telling you that you're no good, right? That goal, that dream that you have for yourself, it's not possible. You can't achieve it. You don't have what it takes. And I say, okay, raise your hand if you've ever been told something like that by someone you love, a best friend, a family member, or even just some random person on social media. All their hands go up. So it goes to show you that whatever you're told, you have to keep moving in life. And this dollar, even when I crumbled it up, stepped on and ripped it apart, it's still worth $1, even if I taped it back together. And what I do is I pull out a real dollar bill signed by Vitt Factor. And I do this at the end of the assembly because throughout the assembly, I make it very interactive. So I'm speaking with tons of different kids. So I choose a kid that I believe needs it the most, right? They'll maybe share that they're dealing with some stuff at home, or they're not performing well in the classroom, or they're facing some things, in their personal life. Well, I'll bring that student up. I'll give them the real dollar bill signed by Vitt Factor, and I'll go in, I'll say, okay, let's give it up for so-and-so, and the whole crowd will go, crazy, and I'll say, okay, I want you to know your value. I want you to put this dollar somewhere where you could see it every day, where no matter what you face, you have the power to get through that. So that's one, big thing that we do at the schools. But another big thing is a partnership that we have with the middle school up north. There's one student who has really gone through it, like one of his parents died. His brother had passed away from, drug overdose. He's not doing well in school, a troublemaker. He asked to have a sit-down conversation with me. And I'll never forget, it was between two assemblies. So it was like the 6th and 7th graders, and then the 8th graders was the second session. We had a sit-down conversation, and he was bawling. He was really sad. And that was a moment where just because of what I covered in that assembly before, I built that trust in speaking to all the kids, where he felt comfortable enough to come to me, share how he's feeling, and asking Caden, how do I pull myself out of this? I'm just not happy right now. I'm not proud of, what's happening in my own life and what's happening around me. What do I do, Caden? So seeing that connection being built, it just goes to show you how what we cover and what we teach through Vitt Factor is changing lives.
For sure. Yeah. Stories like that are devastating to hear. And at such a young age, it's so hard to grieve because you feel like you have no one to go to.
Exactly.
And at that age, I couldn't imagine what a kid like that has to go through.
It was sad. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there any other stories, any other kids specifically?
I would say, overall, I would say a lot of students are facing a lack of friendships through communication. So a lot of kids they don't know how to start, expand, and end a conversation. They don't know how to build strong friendships. They don't know how to present themselves with having strong body language. So teaching them these skills where these students feel isolated, where they walk through school with their head down. They go to their locker, no one talks to them. They sit alone at lunch. They come home and they realize they haven't talked to a single person. Well, when I teach these communication tips and techniques, they can go to school the next day, Alex, and apply what they learn, where they feel confident enough to walk up to a group, to sit with kids at lunch, to be able to join a club, and not only join the club, to have the confidence to become the leader within the club as well. So these simple things that I realized, kids are facing, teaching them these little techniques of, types of questions to ask. How do you build a connection? How do you walk up with confidence and to be able to not use the filler words and make other people feel good where they want to become your friend? It's so valuable. It really is.
What would you teach the freshman in a new high school who wants to go to the basketball game on Friday night but doesn't have a friend group to go with? Mm-hmm. What would you teach them on how to maybe penetrate a group and, find people to go with?
So I would say the biggest thing is you got to take that risk and just go. I know you're going to feel nervous. I know you're not going to be super confident. I know you're maybe not motivated to go. I know deep down you want to, but you just don't want to. You don't want to take that jump to show up. You sometimes have to just go and take that risk. And that's the biggest thing, as I've realized, is these kids don't have the self-belief in order to do things. Like with that example is, an incoming freshman, he's there at the school, wants to go to the basketball game. Well, you're not going to be able to make those friends unless you just go. And getting them to visualize is like, okay, you want to find a friend group, you want to build those friends, but what are you doing right now currently? And he or she will say, well, I'm not doing anything. Well, what do you think you should do? Well, I should probably go to the game. Awesome. We just told yourself what you should do. Now let's see it happen. Then we'll talk through a game plan on how they could approach it and go more in depth, because every student client's different. But that's just the overview, is getting them to realize that it's possible, and they can take the steps in order to make that happen, to see the results that they're looking for.
I feel like for most things, people deep down do know what they have to do to get it done.
Yeah.
Whether it's in business, in life, relationships, people know what they have to do. They just need someone to tell them.
Exactly.
Because they don't have the belief in themselves to go do it. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Hey guys, just to pause for 1 second. If you can subscribe, share, it would mean the world to me. I thank every one of you for listening to the podcast. You guys are the reason it's growing. Let's get back in the video. How do you tailor messages to certain age groups? Because I feel like the message you tell the 6th grader and the senior in high school are going to be two different messages.
Yeah.
Is that wrong? Or
no, you're definitely correct. And it's definitely depends on the topic. For an example, communication, like I just kind of went into, that can apply for all ages. So how to start a conversation, how to build a friendship, the connections, types of questions to ask, that goes for everybody. When it comes to something like peer pressure, that's much different. That's a big thing that I'll focus on is positive, negative peer pressure, is getting them to realize situations that they're in, but how do you respond to it? So the power of when, how, why to say no, when to leave a friendship, relationship, a situation. So that's a big thing that I'm seeing now happen. So the peer pressure within sixth grade, it could be to yell something across the class. When you're a senior high school, the peer pressure could be to drink and do drugs at a party. Complete different situations, but they're both negative peer pressure. So getting them to understand like how to respond and react to a situation like this, because they know deep down it's not good for them. Sixth grader knows they shouldn't shout that across the classroom. And the senior high school knows that they shouldn't be, drinking and doing those drugs at that party. And that takes me to my another topic, Alex, that I'll focus on is cool versus lame. What I realized, looking back to when I was in even middle, high school, and of course college, what I thought was cool, I now realize is actually lame. What I thought was cool was not paying attention in class, partying, like making poor decisions, not having my priorities straight, not doing what was needed in order to do well in the classroom. I thought that was cool. But looking back, that's lame. What cool actually is surround yourself with people who make you better. Manage your time and doing things that are going to move you forward, investing in yourself and showing up every single day to become that best version. So that's actually the first thing that I talk about is cool versus lame. So the first thing is cool versus lame, and the last thing is the knowing your value with the dollar bill.
Definitely. And so you have 3 different assemblies.
Yes.
And 4 different workshops.
Correct.
What do you teach the students in each of those?
Yeah, so the first one will be things such as communication, knowing your value, not comparing yourself to others, goal setting, things like that. The second one will be things, what is it? Peer pressure, the power of when to say no, personal brand, what you want to be known for, how to be a standout. The third one, which we just recently created because we've done one school, which we've been there now the third time doing the assembly, is things such as leadership, being a leader versus a follower. We'll talk about having that self-motivation. We'll talk about some different activities. So we'll have vision, anti-vision. So getting them to visualize their future and the person that they're becoming, the life that they're creating, but the anti-vision, the life that they want to stay away from and the life that they don't want to live for themselves. So handful of different topics. And also depending on the school, we'll add in a topic or two if we're going to school and they're saying, hey, Caden, we love these topics, but could you also talk about this a little bit? We'll make that happen for that specific school.
What's the importance of reputation to you? And for a kid in high school or even middle school who's got a bad reputation with certain people, how do you go about recovering that reputation?
Exactly.
Because that I'm thinking back to high school. If you maybe do something to try to be cool, but it's really not, and people see you as that kind of person, and you change, and you want to kind of bring back your reputation, which a reputation is very hard to come back from.
Exactly.
So what's your secret to doing that?
Yeah. So the big thing that I'll talk about is personal brand and what you want to be known for. And this is everything you do. This is words you choose to use in a conversation, how you're acting. This is what you're posting on social media, what you're reposting, what you're commenting, what you're liking. This is even just like how you're acting in the classroom, all these different things. You're building a brand that you're either proud of or not proud of. You think about someone or something like Nike, right? You think sports, running, athletes, that's the brand they've built. You think something like, Louis Vuitton, you think luxury, designer, stuff like that. That's their brand. But what's your brand? So when I go to these schools, specifically for like middle and high school, I'll get them to think to themselves, what do I want to be known for? And they'll, I'll bring the mic around and they'll say this, this, and that. And then I'll have a self-reflection part and say, okay, you want to be known for this, but what are you actually known for? And then that's where they're like, oh, wow. Like what I want to be known for does not align with what I'm actually known for. And if they're not aligned, I ask them now to talk, to the mic or with one another. What could you do to become what you want to be known for? If you're not happy with what you're known for from social media or from peers in your class, what could you do? Maybe you need to start posting better things on social media. Ask yourself, what words am I using? How am I acting around others? That's how you build a stronger presence, right? That's how you build a stronger personal brand. And yes, it's tough to overcome maybe a not good personal brand. Like, when people think that they're doing something cool, but it's actually lame, you can try to, head down that right path by making the right decisions, saying the right things, and that's going to allow people to say, okay, he's changing, he's doing what's needed to happen. So that personal brand and what you want to be known for is so valuable, because even through social media, you can think about famous people. It's like what they do and say and how they act is everything.
Definitely. And you were on TEDx.
Yes.
You also wrote a book.
Yep.
So you've been doing a lot of that stuff. How did you end up getting the TEDx?
Yep.
And what was it about?
Yeah. So my TEDx talk that I gave, I actually met a girl on LinkedIn. Her name is Rachel. I saw she's doing amazing work, and I reached out to her personally, not even about the TEDx. Her and I just wanted to connect. She was the CEO, wanted to build my network, and it just built up. And from there, she said, "Hey, Caden, I have an opportunity for you to do the TEDx talk out in Utah." And I was like, this is what I want. This is what I need. This would be so good for me. And what I talked about, which was such a great topic, was social isolation to human connection for teens. So that's where I started off by talking about the Johnny story, which was, a past client of mine, how he walked into school, how he felt at lunch, how he came home and had no friends. And then what I did and talked to him about what the tips and techniques that I covered through communication that helped him get from where he was at one day to a month or so later to now his story after. He was able to join clubs and got involved, was able to attend, the basketball games and things like that. So that's a big thing. That's the number one skill I believe is missing through our youth right now is the face-to-face communication. Because these kids, they always just are on their phone. They're sending text messages, talking through social media apps. So when they get in person, they don't know how to have a successful conversation. So that's where I talked about that, most valuable skill that I believe is important, the social isolation to human connection for teens.
And you say COVID was a big factor in why that is not doing too well right now.
And you think about it, these kids were trapped in their house for a year and a half, 2 years, two and a half years.
Prime development years too.
Exactly.
Like we were a little older, but these kids were prime development of communication skills.
That's where their brains were developing. They were figuring out who they are, their friendships. Even I would say it really affected probably 5th grade to sophomores in high school. I would say that middle school age was probably affected the most because you think about it, these kids are figuring out who they are when they're trapped in their house doing school through Zoom. They can't see anybody face to face. That's where their confidence goes down, their motivation, their drive, their communication skills, and each area is just like affected. So that's where, these kids coming out of the pandemic, a lot of them are still facing that. When I talk to parents and teachers on a daily basis, they say our youth is still currently facing that right now.
For sure. And your book was about being 1% better.
Yes.
Was it?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And that was a really cool opportunity. So something pretty unique we did. It was me and 9 other authors, is where we came together. We did a mastermind retreat. So we got together for 4 days and we each wrote our own chapter. So Kayla Majors, who was on, a past podcast through, this here, Alex, he was in one chapter. My business partner, Anthony Casper, Adebayo Kuye, we each had our own chapter talking about our story, how we became 1% better every single day. And it was really cool too, because when we wrote this book, we were all between the ages of 19 to 22. So yes, it's, my book, the Vitt Factor book, but it's also, I say, our book because 10 of us, including me, came together and we each have our own chapter.
For sure. And how did you guys, assemble that group to go on the retreat to then write the chapters?
Yeah. So
all your friends?
Yep. So, people part of our 1% team, people were part of my assembly team. So I kind of selected who I wanted to be a part of it. It was all guys. And we did a 3-day and then going to the 4th day mastermind retreat. So we wrote the book in those 3 days and of course tweaked it after that. But we brought in guest speakers. We did, different networking things. So we were constantly working and masterminding through those 3-4 days, which was an awesome experience. And maybe there'll be a part 2 in the next few years.
That's amazing. And you were also on WGN.
Yes, I was.
As well as the David Meltzer
Office Hours
podcast, Office Hours.
Yeah.
2 huge opportunities. How did you get those?
Yeah, so WGN, I actually did cold outreach towards, their producer and said, hey, I believe our mission through Vitt Factor is so valuable. I believe there's so much to share through, what we're teaching, these skills that are so important for our youth. And they said, hey, we love it. We love your mission. And got in a call with them, pretty much pitched them why I should have an opportunity to come on to WGN. I went on. It was like 5-6 minute opportunity, but just the exposure that I got from that. How many?
Did you get a lot of customers from it?
Oh yeah. So a lot of clients I built, new team members, a lot of parents were reaching out to me and saying, hey, I have a school that you should get in contact with, or even principals. Hey, I saw you, because you think about it, there's tens of thousands of people that are watching, the morning news. So
a lot of them are mothers of children with some maybe school issues or stuff like that.
Right. So that was a big thing. Great exposure from that. And then the David Meltzer opportunity, I actually met him at the VIP dinner. And it was really cool because I walked up to him. I said, hey, and I think the biggest thing is when they see someone famous, like, David Meltzer, very known in the business world, very successful, great bio as well, is people try to sell themselves too much. People, I feel like, come off as they're famous where they try to act or talk a certain way, and people can tell when you're not being true and authentic towards yourself. At the end of the day, they're just another person. Go up and be yourself, right? Have that conversation, because a lot of people, who are famous, they have people coming up to them through social media or face to face on a daily, hourly basis and are saying, hey, can I get a picture with you? Hey, how can I get involved with what you're doing? Like, how can you help me? Go up and have that conversation. And that's what I did with David Meltzer. Is I went up, asked him, hey, how you doing? Like, I saw you had the opportunity. How was that? I saw your daughter and your son were doing amazing things. How do they do after that? Having that person, that human connection there before even getting into sharing about what I did is what I focused on.
Yeah.
From there, we kicked it off. We had a great conversation. And 2 months later, I had an opportunity to go out to Vegas and film at Sirius XM at the Wynn, hotel there and be a part of office hours.
That's a great opportunity. And I think another thing with that and what you did was giving them little pieces of them that you remembered, like,
Yes.
oh, I see your daughter's doing this, or I see your son was doing this. Once you know those little facts about them and you remember them, it's like texting someone for their birthday.
Yeah.
And they just like really appreciate it because you remembered their birthday.
And that's what I do.
If you go up to somebody and say, hey, how's this going? And they're like, oh, you're really like monitoring that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
People love that stuff.
Yeah, you got to remember about little things about people. You can have a conversation and maybe not see them for a week, a month, even couple of years. You see them again. Hey, how's that going? I saw you started a business. How has it been so far? It builds that connection, authentically. And, meeting David Meltzer was a great opportunity to just have that face-to-face conversation with him and share what I'm doing. And it was successful from there.
So if someone's really in the dumps at school, business, they're hitting the rock bottom.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you tell them to do?
Yeah.
Day one, the next day.
Yep. So the first thing I would say is reflect on your starts and stops. Ask yourself, what are some things I need to start doing that's going to move me forward? I need to start going to bed on time. I need to start hanging out with better friends. I need to start managing my time better. Cool. Okay. Now we talk about action steps from there, but stops. What are some things you need to stop doing? What do you need to remove from your life that is holding you back? Well, I am constantly making poor decisions. I procrastinate everything. Even something like I don't eat healthy. I don't go to the gym. Okay, well, we figured out things you want to start doing that are going to move you forward and things you need to stop doing that are probably holding you back and bringing you down. And then from there, whether it's a client or at a school assembly or even, someone who's older than me, what's the action steps you could take from there? How can you become 1% better? What do you need to do to invest in yourself? How can you create that life you want to live? So simple reflection on what you need to start doing and stop doing, I would say is the best start.
And how do you get these kids, these high school and middle school kids, to really be self-reflective of themselves, to really even emulate what's their issues? Because some people know what their issues are, but don't say them because they don't want to stop doing them. Or for whatever reason. How do you get them to open up to you and be like, you know what, this is a real issue for me, even though they don't want to say it?
Great question. So I start off and I get vulnerable, right? I dive deep into my story a little bit. What I did today is talking about my first semester at college, specifically those 2 months. I said, just 3 years ago, this is where I was at. That's how I felt. This is the path that I was going down, who I was becoming. And they're like, wow, that's where Caden was 3 years ago. Now look what he's done. He's an author. He's been on, done a TED Talk, been on the news. That's awesome. And then I get them to say, okay, take a second, close your eyes. You're going to have that truthful conversation with yourself. Reflect on the person you're becoming, the life that you're creating for yourself. And from there, they get to say, wow, like I am really not doing well. Right? I'm not performing well in the classroom. I have the wrong friend group. I don't feel close to my family. I'm not confident in who I am. So getting vulnerable, showing them that this is where I was 3 years ago, and this is the success I've seen, and then getting them to reflect and have that truthful conversation on themselves is where it kind of breaks that ice a little bit before I dive into the skills where I say, this is what helped me go from where I was and who I was to the path that I'm going down and who I'm becoming.
For sure. And what role does mental health play in the message that you try to give to kids?
Yeah, it's so valuable. And another big thing that I'll talk about is the positive versus negative self-talk. It's so important. If you think about it, your self-talk is the one thing you could control. So, just to break it down is I talk about the two wolves in someone's mind and they battle every single day. So you have one in the dark, negativity, negative self-talk, but you have the other in the light, positivity, positive self-talk. And the question is, which wolf wins? And simple, it's the one you feed. So think about it. If you walk into a conversation saying this person's not going to like me, it's not going to go well. Where you're feeding the negative wolf, it's not going to be a great conversation. If you walk into a tryout for your sport and say, I believe in myself, no matter who's here today, I'm going to outwork every single person to make sure I make this team. You're feeding the positive wolf. You're going to see the positive results. So the mental health starts with self-talk. It really does, because if you're telling yourself negative things, well, how do you expect to feel? How you can't expect the results to go well for you if you're letting that negativity take over. So self-talk is so valuable, and I would say the root of everything.
Definitely. I completely agree. I think even if you take it to an extreme where you tell yourself and you repeat like the same thing every day.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, for example, like I'm going to be a marathon runner. I'm going to run. You will become that because that's all you're thinking about all day long.
Exactly.
And if the one thing you're thinking about all day long, you're going to take action to it, right?
Yeah. And what you tell yourself the first thing in the morning, I talk to students all the time and they're like, oh, I got to go to school and then I got to do this for my parents. And then I have to do this, this activity. It's just going to be a boring, lame day. Well, instead of saying that, say, I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to go to school and learn, that I have, family that's supportive and wants to see me succeed, that I have friends that I get to get involved in an activity and sport with. So it's how you perceive everything is so important. And what you tell yourself that first moment when you wake up is setting the tone for the day.
That's a great transition, because I was actually going to talk about next was gratitude.
Yep.
I think gratitude is something that a lot of people lack, but it is the most important thing for you to enjoy life more, to have a better perception of life.
Yep.
If you're always thinking about the stuff you don't have instead of the stuff you do, you're never going to be happy.
Yep.
But if you think, it sounds very bad, but I always compare myself to the people that are worse than me. This person lost a parent.
Yeah.
This person is dead broke, whatever it may be. I compare to them. I'm like, you know what? My situation is not that bad.
Yes.
Always look at it from the worst perspective. What's your opinion on it?
Oh, it's so good. I know it's so valuable because you get to enjoy life that much easier. And, there's another thing that I talk about too, and then I want to dive into that point again, is I realize a lot of kids through social media compare themselves. And that leads them to be like, my life isn't that good. Look at what he's doing. Look where she's at. And so what I talk about is the apple through the mirror. So I show a picture of an apple through the mirror, and through the mirror, the apple is shiny, round, perfect. On the other side, what you don't see, it's rotten, cut up, and bruised. And I talk about social media is people are posting and sharing their
only the
success,
best, only
their
the top
wins,
1%.
how great they're doing.
Yeah.
You're not seeing the failures, mistakes, and tough times they're facing. So when you compare yourself in a negative way, it's going to get you to reflect back on your life in a negative aspect. You're like, wow, I'm not doing that. They got all A's. They're going there. They're achieving this. And this goes for all ages, whether you're a sixth grader or, someone like you and I, Alex, is if you compare yourself in a negative way, I feel like it's another route to you not being super grateful. You're not appreciative. You're not thankful for what you have and who you have in your life. And it is so important is reflecting constantly and being like, wow, like I have a loving family. My best friend just lost, his parent, or I have a successful business that is growing and I see this person that, just lost their job and they're not bringing in any income. So it's how you look at everything and perceive things and then put it back into your own life and be like, wow, I actually have it pretty good.
For sure. I think one easy thing people can do is, I wake up in the morning, the fact that I can even get out of bed.
Yes.
And not feel sick or not feel hurt in any way. That's the one. I don't need anything else. I'm happy in that.
Yeah.
Because I always think to myself, if I ever find myself comparing to other people, I could be bedridden with cancer with 24 hours to live.
It's happening all over.
All over.
Yeah.
If you have that mindset, like this could be my last week on earth.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? This is the last week I'm going to see my family.
Yeah.
This is the last week I'm going to eat my favorite meal. This is the last week I'm going to play my favorite sport, hang out with my friends. If you think of life that way,
yeah,
it sounds very grim,
right?
But it really puts you in perspective.
Yeah.
It puts life in perspective.
And looking at it in that way, or even looking at it in the back, like tomorrow's not guaranteed. So you can see, what other people are facing, like cancer, or they have both their legs are broken or they're paralyzed, whatever they're facing, looking at it in that aspect, or saying tomorrow's not even guaranteed. So realizing that, and I always say, Alex, you'll never get the same moment twice. So when you're with family, friends, whatever you're doing, something that makes you happy, take it in, enjoy the moment, right? Be appreciative, like take a step back in your mind and say, wow, like I enjoy this moment. And that's something that I have really focused on the last couple of years is really enjoying what I have around me, because it's so easy to get caught up in chasing the success, the money, growing the business. But look at what you do have and what's going well for you.
For sure. That's another great transition. I was going to talk about living in the moment, because a lot of people are always on to the next thing. What's next? I'm thinking about this next trip I'm going on. Think about the boring days.
Yes.
Enjoy the boring days.
Yeah,
Enjoy the day where you got nothing going on. Sometimes I'll just go walk by the lake and people have their headphones in. They're talking to people, whatever. Take the headphones out, sit and just look.
Yeah.
And just stare. And just enjoy. Like, it's a beautiful day out. I'm young. Like, it's crazy to think that we're the youngest we'll ever be.
Yeah.
That most likely the healthiest we'll ever be either.
Yeah.
Because you just get older. So,
and see how quick life goes, through high school and college, and it moves quickly. So,
and that's not, you're not just saying that, because I think there's a study done that your perception of time actually speeds up exponentially as you get older.
Oh, I'm sure.
They've studied that. So
and you get busier too, which doesn't help. Yeah.
Exactly. Why? The perception, because you're working. The longest part of our lives are done. Like that, the first quarter of our lives is more like the first half.
That's scary.
As how we perceive it in life, which is very, very scary. So where's Vitt Factor at now with getting clients, schools, one-on-ones? What do you focus on the most?
Yeah, so I would
from a business perspective.
Of course. So I would say right now I'm about maxed out for my one-on-one coaching clients. My next focus is to bring on other coaches that could scale their own clients. I already do have a couple coaches currently. The assemblies, to be able to build long-term partnerships, but not only build a partnership through them, but pitch them the Mission Academy. So saying, hey, your students loved us, but now your students can have access to the Mission Academy. And what that is it's a video subscription of about 100 different videos. And each video is 2 to 4 minutes. Within each video, there's a story, analogy, talking points to learn, and a PDF worksheet and quiz for them to specifically work on. We do live calls. There's an app. It's community formatted. So that's the focus within our youth, is getting to more schools and bringing the Mission Academy towards them. And then also when it comes to more like the events, today we just launched our 4th annual Ripple Effect Gala. So we're aiming for over 400 attendees. And this event is made for everybody. So it's made for families, young professionals, entrepreneurs, businesses. And there's no event like this because it kicks off the new year to really set you up for success that year, personally and professionally. So a lot of people have goals and dreams of, okay, by this point, this is what I want 2026 to look like for me. Well, January 3rd is 3 days into the year. Well, now you have an opportunity to say, okay, how can I network tonight? How can I learn from these speakers to grow my motivation? How can I set the tone for the year? So this is going to be our 4th annual. It's going to be at the Bolingbrook Golf Course, and this is it's going to be a great night. I'm really excited for it.
Definitely very exciting, and you're very big on motivation. A lot of people say motivation is very short term. So how do you take that motivation and make it a long term thing?
Discipline.
Yep.
So I would say everybody.
Because some people watch a motivational video,
yeah,
motivated for a day.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they go back to their old habits.
And that's what I talk about, is everybody has those moments or days or weeks that they're unmotivated. Oh, I don't feel like doing it today. I don't want to. I'll do it another day. I'll push it back. You're feeling unmotivated. But so unmotivated side of you is doing something when you feel like it. I'm motivated today. I'm unmotivated. But discipline is doing something regardless of how you feel. And that's the big thing that people need to focus on, especially when you're younger, to make it a habit of yours, is how can I become disciplined? I'm not motivated to study or do homework, but I'm disciplined. And I know I have to do it because I want to get good grades. That's just an example. So letting that discipline take over in those moments and days that you feel unmotivated.
For sure. And for the gala, are you running ads? How are you marketing to get the word out to as many people as possible?
Yeah, so reaching out to all the past attendees for like the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd annual, doing ad outreach, past sponsorships, getting the word out there, going to speak on stages to talk about it. Examples like this, whoever watched the podcast, hopefully they'll, attend the gala. So all these different ways that I'm trying to push out to hit that 400 mark, which will be hosted at the Bolingbrook Golf Course, which is possible. We had about 350 our 3rd annual, 50 more attendees. We can make it happen. And
obviously you got a great product in everything you do. You, in the more business side of things, do you sell advertisement space at your events? And what are your different funnels of making money through your business?
So through the business or through the event?
Both.
Yeah. So I'll say everything. So for the business, it's being paid by one-on-one coaching clients, and then the schools, workshop and assemblies when we go in there to speak. And then the Mission Academy is an upfront commitment for the school for a year. So they'll pay upfront and they'll have access for the year. And then also for parents, they can pay monthly. So let's say a school does it, but then there's parents through Facebook or Instagram can pay monthly for the subscription. For the 1% team, it's a one-time payment. And then for the events, it's both tickets for the attendees, of course, and then also for sponsorships. So we have 4 different level sponsorships, and for that, they're promoted at the event depending on the level. For the highest level, they'll have an opportunity to speak on stage for a few minutes through social media, all that sort of thing. So in last year, we had about 12 different news articles. So like NBC, Associated Press shared the Ripple Effect Gala 3rd annual. All my sponsors were in there. So just the opportunity to get their name, their brand out there, their company is why they want to do it. But of course, at the end of the day, they're supporting the mission. They're being a part of Vitt Factor's focus for our gala.
Of course. And, I think it's great what you're doing, and you're central to the Chicagoland area.
Yep.
Do you have any, vision of this being a nationwide or even worldwide thing?
That's the goal. Yeah. So we've done a couple schools in Houston, Texas, Indiana, over the border there. That's for the assemblies. And what I'm actually putting together now, which is going to be happening about a week or two, I'm going to be sending out tens of thousands of emails every single month. So working with Instantly and Maildoso, got that set up. So I have school contacts through Illinois, Indiana, Arizona, Texas. I have every school, their emails. So they're going to be receiving emails from me, and hoping that brings me to the point where I can go down to, let's say, Arizona and do 10 schools in a matter of a month or so. So that's the end all goal for the assemblies. But for the events, have an opportunity to say, hey, I'm hosting an event down in Florida, over in Texas, out in California, wherever that takes us. That will be the future, and it's definitely heading towards that.
Do you have a CRM or a system that manages all these different contacts you have, whether it's schools, one-on-one clients, or potential clients?
Yeah, so I have some people helping me with like responding to different things, and doing some outreach, so outreach people. But right now I'm setting up the CRM, and then just the focus through the outreach where I can have the AI stuff respond back. They can set up calls with me. So that's in the process where it's really starting to pick up. But also too, it's great to see schools personally reaching out to me, where they're coming right to me. I respond, and we set up a call, and then book a date for for an assembly.
For sure. Yeah. And I think once you get to one school in a certain city, it's going to be much easier to get to the other schools, right?
Exactly.
Kind of like that snowball effect.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. That'd be really nice. And so is there any other topics or questions you have?
No, I think we covered a lot. I would say nothing else that comes to mind. We talked about my story.
Oh, there was one other thing.
Let's hear it.
Other thing I wanted to ask you. Book recommendation.
Ooh. I would say, is there a specific for everybody or for like a specific audience for the recommendation? Because that kind of like plays a part, I feel like.
So what is a book that helped you kind of create your whole curriculum and your brand that you learned from?
So I love the book, Make Today Count. It's by, let's say, John C. Maxwell. I love it because there's like 16 chapters in there, and each chapter is focused on one topic. So one will be like mindset, one will be like friendships, one will be relationships. So it's a book that covers everything, and that's why I really like it. And that's, a book that I read in the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey that helped me really focus in on how to build a business, how to build stronger friendships, how to build stronger relationships with family and things like that. So each chapter has its own focus, and that's why I really like it, is because you could be an 8th grader watching this, you could be 60 years old, and if you read this book, you'll be able to take something away and apply it back to your life. So make today count.
For sure. And where can people find your book?
You can find it on Amazon. So Becoming the 1%, as our motto is 1% better every single day. And you search that up through Amazon, and it'll be right there.
Cool. Caden, well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Great conversation. Where can people find you on socials?
Yeah, so socials, my website would be www.vittfactor.com and vitt.factor on all social media. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're on all platforms. Then my LinkedIn is just Caden Vittorini.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate the opportunity.